Drawdown switching. In this session, we'll be looking at providing and producing a drawdown switch quote for your client. Now, this is a scenario where you have a client who has a current drawdown plan, and you want to kind of decide, well, see if they're in the right place, or if it's maybe better to move them into another drawdown policy. So, as with all of our quotes, what we need to do is source our client or create a new client if they're not already on our system. So, firstly, go to Clients on your home page and select My Client. Now, as you'll see, this will produce a list of all the clients that you've got on the system. If you wish to create a new client, click Create New Client up here. If the client is already in the system, then we can go from there. Now, I have only a few clients on my system here. You may have a lot. So a few tips to help you source the client and find the client that you want to do the work for. You can use these tabs at the top here. If you click on there, it will order them by surname in this instance, by date of birth, for example. Or you can search for the client by putting in the name, up in the top left hand side here and clicking search. Or you can use different features that apply to different clients. For example, the next review date. Select any that are up for a review soon, click search, and it will source those clients accordingly. Now, I know what client I'm going to do this work for this time, so I'm going to find that and click twice on the client's name. That will eventually bring all our details through. Now, the main thing you need to ensure is, before you can do a quote, the first 5 sections of client details have been completed. So when you create a new client, you'll see something like this. So if I remove the surname here and click away, you see there's a warning sign. So when you create a new client, there'll be one of those warning signs next to all the areas that you need to complete. So pop in your details, click away, and that sign vanishes. You see the right hand side, there's a summary of the client and the state pension age, for example, here. And you can also complete the other areas. These aren't mandatory, but they're there for you to use should you wish. So using my left hand side menu, as you can see here, I want to get started on a switch quote, on a drawdown switch. So I'm going to click Quotes, and you'll see it's taking me to the quote section here. So all I need to do now is click Create New Quote on this button on the right hand side. And now, Drawdown Switching Quote. The first thing you'll notice at the top here, a new tab opens. It's called Drawdown Switching Quote. And you see all of these warning signs apply as well. They all appear. I'm going to use my left hand side menu to navigate, but you can also navigate by clicking on each area, and that will expand each area accordingly. But I like to use left hand side menu. So quote details is what we're already on. As you can see, I've clicked in here, and this is a kind of a text box you can put in. You can call the quote anything you wish. So this is how it will appear on your client's record. That is the default. I will leave it at that for this occasion. But as I said, you can call it anything you wish. It doesn't appear on your reports, just on your client record. You've got an option for the status of the quote. And then this comments box here, it's a free text box. You can pop in anything you wish. It doesn't appear on any of the reports. All it's there for is if maybe you want to come back into this quote down the line and be reminded of something, or maybe you've got one of your colleagues who wants to complete some work on this client, on this quote. They'll open this, and down the line you need to leave a message. Pop your details in there. As you can see, it's free text. So that's the easy bit done. Now what we're going to do is pop in all the details to kind of shape the quote, put in our client current plans and portfolios. So the left hand side, current plans, portfolios. As you can see, it's blank. Now all I'm going to do on this occasion is create a new plan portfolio. But if you've already created plans for this client you're doing the work on, and you don't want to kind of reinvent the wheel and create the new plans again, click Select Plan Portfolios. This box will appear in a list of all the portfolios you have for this client will show, and you can just select them accordingly. So as I said, I'm just going to click Create New Plan Portfolio, and you see it swings around and allows us now to pop in some vital information. But first off, I'm just going to show you this. In current plan name, you see I've clicked in there, and this again is free text. It's important that you put an identifier in there. It could be the provider name, it could be the policy number, anything, because if you have multiple portfolios that this client has, you want them to have a different name. So under your client record, they show as an individual name rather than all have the default, which would be the client's name with portfolio after it. So I've changed that. Then on the drop-down list, just select the provider. Now, the next section that we need to complete is the current plan maturity values one here. Projected maturity basis, if I click this arrow here, drop-down box appears, and you see you've got 3 different options. Now the main one that you'll be using is this, it's monetary rates applied. If I click on there now, you see another option opens and it's called growth rates. And this is what growth rates that the seeding scheme are using on their projection. And I'll explain the fund-specific growth rates in a second, but for the time being I'm just going to click industry standard growth rates. And as you'll see, if the provider are using industry standard growth rates for the projection, 2, 5 and 8%, all you need to do is pop in your maturity values and follow the instruction. Go on to the next section here. But before I do that, I'm just going to do a quote using this basis. I'll explain the other areas. Firstly, in growth rates, you can choose fund-specific growth rates. This is a scenario where if your provider are using monetary rates, they're not using any other way of working out the projection figures. But the growth rates aren't 2, 5 and 8. They're not industry standard. All you need to do is pop in the growth rates that they're using, just like this. Pop in your maturity values and the rest of it, and away you go. But sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes they will use a projection. They'll project you, if they've got multiple funds in the seeding scheme, they might have different growth rates used for different funds. So for example, if I click this calculator button here, I choose the number of funds, give the fund name, each fund a name, you pop in your percentage invested and the percentage used, low, medium and high for each one. You click OK, and what will happen is the system will calculate weighted growth rates for low, medium and high according to the values you put in for each fund. And then you just follow on, you put in your maturity values and the other information up here. Before I move on and put my figures in, just to show you the projected maturity basis options as well, you have SMPI rates supplied option, and again with this you can choose industry standard or fund specific. In this scenario, what some providers will do, they'll give you a projection using SMPI, which stands for Statutory Money Purchase Illustration. These quotes, they project benefits to retirement using the growth rate, and then what they do is discount the figure to a present day value, taking into account inflation. So the growth rate will be in normal terms, but the maturity value will take into account inflation. When they do this, you can use this element, this section here, and the system will then basically give you the results using monetary terms, so it will reinflate the figures for you. The other option is estimated by system. Now, as you can see, there's a red caveat all over this section here. This is basically when you haven't been given a projected maturity value by the existing provider. What you can do is input an AMC or an annual management charge, and the system will give you an estimated projection using that figure. Not recommended as a compliant method of projection. So hence we've put this message here, but maybe if you're interested in where the client might be going, you can use this section just for illustrative purposes only. So we'll go up to projected maturity basis, monetary rates applied, and the most usual scenario that you'll encounter, industry standard growth rates. And what I'll do firstly, I'll pop in my maturity values. Just click inside with your mouse. Use your keypad on your PC or your laptop to pop in your maturity values. Now you see there's one other area that's mandatory here. Obviously it's your current value and your transfer value and the date that that projection was provided. So I'll stick in my figures here. And in your as at date, you can click in this box and put in a date and type that in, or you can click the calendar sign and select it like that. Now you can move on from here because you haven't got any other mandatory areas in this section, but there's one section that is optional that I'm going to show you before we move on, and it's this bit here called click here to enter current planned funds. So if I click on there, what this will allow us to do is to search for the current planned funds. You can search by CDOL, ISIN code, or even the plan name, the fund name, sorry. And what you'll get on your report is a past performance figures for the current planned funds, and it will measure that against the new planned funds. Like I say, it doesn't affect your results, but if you're interested in doing that to add a bit of flavour to your report, as I'm doing, I'm typing in the name of the fund. I find the fund. If I had a CDOL or ISIN code, it would find that fund straight away. Put in my number, what the weighting is, and you can see 100%. Now you can share that to make it up to 100% if you've got different proportions in different funds. So just find your funds, add the proportion, search for others, and find more. Okay, so what we'll do now, I'll just click these two arrows at the top right here. That spins it round and it gives us an overview of this is what we're going to be using for the basis of the report. If you made a mistake and you want to do a new one, click there and you'll be asked if you want to remove it or not. Click yes, then you can create a new plan. Okay, moving on, left hand side menu again, click income. Now as you can see it says enter the income details you wish to use for this quote. So this is kind of how we're going to drive the style of the quote. So first off, style, cap drawdown, nice and easy. It's the only option we offer at the moment. Annuitization age. Now what we need to know here is the age that your client wants to stop their drawdown and cash in and get their annuity. Choose the next GAD review date. You can click in there and type in the date, or you can use a calendar, select a particular date. And then income basis. So you can select no income if a specific monetary amount, if that's what they're looking for, or you can choose a percentage of GAD. You can choose up to 150%. I'll choose 120 on this occasion. And what we need to know is what their current income is that they're taking and how often they get that paid. So is it £8,000 annually or is it £8,000 monthly? And optionally, you can enter if they want to put any additional contributions in. Okay, moving on, left-hand side menu, new investment. Now, this is a section where we tell the system what funds to use for the new plans. So you can use funds, if you've already created a model portfolio on your system, you can import funds from that model portfolio. You can select funds from scratch if you wish, or you can see this box here, and I'll tick that in a moment. That will take you to the sector default section, and you can let the system choose what fund or funds to use from certain sectors if you wish. So, first off, how do you import from a model portfolio? It's really simple. Click Actions here. Import funds, just hover over that. You don't have to tick it. Hover over import funds and holdings, including percentages from, if you want to include the percentages from, or if you don't want to include the percentages, just use that option. hover over your portfolio and then click on it, left click to import the funds. If you think, well, I might want to a different kind of weighting for each of these funds, you can click in there and type in your weighting. Now what this will do is we'll use these two funds. If I was to move on now, we'll use these two funds for every single product in the results. But you'll see at the bottom here, we've got a filter option available. If I click on there, this is important because it tells the system how we should be treating these funds in terms of products used. So for example, if I was to tick this option here, these funds listed above only, what this will do will only give you results for products that can give you these versions of these funds. So as you can see, we've got the M&G Corporate Bond AAC here. There's another version or a few other versions of that fund. If you choose this option, it will only use that version. If that version is not available, you won't get any results back for that for a certain product. So it won't take into account any other version. But if you want to do that, so for example, if you're kind of fairly lenient as to what version you want the product to use, you could use these options here. So as you can see this, if that fund's not available, it will use the pension mirror fund followed by the oldest version of the parent fund. So you've got options here on this drop down box to fine tune how we treat these funds. But you might have occasions where you want to use specific funds that you haven't already saved in a model portfolio. And to do that, I'm going to show you how to do it. So if I click Actions, click Clear All Funds, that gives us a clear box to work with. Now we're just going to click Select Funds here at the right hand side. This opens our fund search page. What this will allow us to do is to search the funds and import them into that quote. Now you can conduct a filtered search, or you can just search for the funds by CDOL code, name of the fund, for example. I'm just going to use the CDOL for this one, and then I'll click search. Now if it was just this fund I wanted to use, I'd highlight it by clicking on it once, click Add to New Investment and click in there, and that will bring that fund through. But what if you want to add more than one fund? Now we don't want you to do that one at a time. So what we've allowed you to do is to pin these funds. So pin that fund here. That means I can perform other searches and that isn't going anywhere. So if I now search for another fund, click. Now if I hadn't have pinned this, that would have vanished. But what that's done is kept that there, so it's pinned it to the board and allows us to then pin that and then perform another search and kind of bring up a list of funds we want to use for this quote. So once you're happy with the funds you've chosen, you need to multi-select them. Now on a PC, you hold down Control, you left click each fund so they go blue. Or if you're on a Mac and you haven't got that option, right click on your mouse, tick Enable Multi-Select and then left click on the funds. Go to Add to New Investment, Drawdown Switching Quote, and you can see that brings those funds through. Add your percentage, ensure you got the right filter selected, and away you go. So that's how you use specific funds or import from model portfolios, but you're maybe not too interested in doing that for the time being. You can use sectors if that's the case by clicking this box here, use sector defaults. What this allows you to do, you can select maybe 100% in 40 to 85 in mixed asset if you wish. If you want to do that, double click on the name and it puts 100% in. But if you want to be kind of add more kind of flavour to it, and you want to maybe choose funds from different areas, you can do that as well by just clicking in the box, choosing the area, choosing the sector, and adding your percentages in. So what this means on this occasion is that for all the products, we'll use 50%. We'll use one fund from this sector, and then 50% we'll use this fund as well. So basically, each product will use 2 funds from these sectors using this weighting. And again, if you just want to use 100% in one area, double click on there and you can see it's completed 100%. Now, like the funds only section, you've got this option here, this selection of filters that you can use to fine tune how the system chooses the funds from the sector or sectors you've chosen. So as you can see, it defaults on this. Is the fund, it'll choose a fund with the largest fund size with 5-year performance history, including funds in the equivalent IMA sector. Now, that's all well and good, but what if you maybe want to include younger funds, for example? Well, all you'd need to do would be select another option that doesn't include performance history, or you might just want the one with the lowest annual fund charge. So whichever's best for you, you've got all the different options available. Tick on there, and then away you go. So whatever's showing on this section here will be what's used for the quote. So if I was to move forward here and go to advisor charges and get my results, it would use this option. But if I was to tick again, use specific funds, leave this showing and then move on, it will use these funds. Okay, left hand side menu again, advisor charges. Plain and simple, all we need to do is on the initial advisor charging, we need to put the shape that we require. You don't have to put anything in, obviously. But if you do, if you want to, you can put in a specific amount or select a specific percentage. So pop in your details there, just pop in your figure. And again, same with ongoing advisor charging. Got different options available. I'm going to select percentage there, pop in the percentage, and when you pop in the percentage, it'll ask you what increments you want that to be paid in. I'll select monthly increments. Okay, before we go to our results, left-hand side menu, new plan. Now, these, by default, it will show all the products in the system that allow drawdown results, allow themselves to be used included in the drawdown results. Now, as you can see, I've got 32 products selected here. I can narrow down these products if I wish. So you can narrow down, you can filter them by all different elements and different features of the products. Also, if you created a fund list, you can load that fund list in as well. Now, we have a separate video that will show you, it's called product research, and that will show you how to do your research, how to conduct your research using product features, and how to create product lists. So please feel free to attend that session. It will show you, give you more info as to how you can do that, and the same will apply to this area here. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to leave all the products in the system. I'm going to use those for my results. So left-hand side menu, results. As soon as I click it, you see it starts getting to work. And now what I get, familiar league table of all the products available. Now that's my current plan. So what this is telling me is based on these values, at the top, well, the maturity value, 5%, my current plan would be beaten by these, but it beats these plans. Now, when you first get your results, it automatically shows what's showing on this view here called My Drawdown Switching Results. That incorporates all of these views here. Given that it defaults on that view, we've allowed you to then choose what shows on this area. So My Drawdown Switching Results is, you can amend it. You can amend what's seen in these sections. So how to do that? Just go into options at the top. Make sure you're on quotes on the left-hand side. Drawdown switching and results. Now this is the box here. If you click here, you can tick up to 6 different areas to view in that section. So for example, if I was to get rid of my overall maturity value percentage low and put in mid, click OK. You see now what that's done is change that view to show mid 5%. Now that will stay like that every time I do a drawdown switch. This is the view I will get. So unless you change it, it will always default on what you can see here. And to bring to your attention these views at the top here, if I click on maturity values, it will give me the low, medium and high maturity values and the advisor charging as well. Just to exemplify what you can do here, if I was to click on this header here, it will sort them by low, again sort them by mid and by high, and that applies to every single column here. So if you click on the header, it will sort them accordingly. So you've got your growth rate and safety margin. Now, just to put you in the picture what this means is, in a nutshell, it means additional growth rate and additional annual growth rate and additional safety margin. So when the figure is in red, what that means is these plans need to perform by that percentage on top of 5% to match your current plan. And these plans give you a safety margin. So you've got a safety margin of 0.3%, meaning that plan can perform at 4.7% mid-rate to match your current plan. So in red, it's additional growth rate required. In green, it's a safety margin. Overall percentage shows you the percentage difference in the maturity value at each of the different growth rates. And then we go back to my switching results. So when you're happy that you know where you want to move the client to, or at least you want to give the client some info about where you'd like them to go, left click once so it goes blue. So I'll click on the product name. You can find more info about the quote from this provider by clicking more info, and actions as well allows you to perform different actions. But how do you get your report? So make sure it's highlighted, go up here on the top left, click on reports, and you've got 4 reports available to you. But in a nutshell, what they provide are the calculation summary sheet, shows you all the inputs and the calcs used to come to the results that you've got here. Your current view will print out, or give you the option to print out a PDF version of what you can see here. Income Drawdown View is your main report that gives you all the critical yields and figures you need. And your quote info gives you a bit more information about this quote, in particular the product you've chosen. So click on any of those to generate the reports, and you can print or save them accordingly. Once you're happy, you've got your reports out and you've saved them or you've printed them, you'll need to close this quote. So left-hand side menu, next steps, choose the option that you wish. So I'm going to close this tab and view the client. Now what that's done is taken me to the client I've just done that report for. And as you'll see, if I go on my left-hand side menu now, click on Current Plans Portfolios, that's the current portfolio we've just created. You could then go into that by double-clicking in there and adding the holdings, and so you get an updated value. And go to quotes, that is a copy of the inputs we've just created. So to enter into there again, double-click, and it will open up a new tab, and it will load in all the inputs you've created. You can run the results again. That's it for drawdown switching. If you do require any further assistance, don't forget, click help on the top right hand side, and you've got user support and training mechanisms available to you accordingly. Thank you. Hope you found this session useful.